to go week by week and have yourself trying to figure out what you want to do when it comes to this project, and then to have it come to you and then find yourself fighting back against it because of X, Y, and Z. Basically, what I've come to understand over the last week and after doing a lot of pondering and thinking is that I do want to make that Theodore Roosevelt film, but as far as the content relating to other presidents and their lives, I think the best result, because I recognized I like to have something to show for giving effort to something, but also have just an example of it very quickly. So if I did a film, it would not immediately show about because it takes some time to do that, and I would start to get a little disillusioned, disenchanted, um, especially if that's the first of its kind. Now, if this is an attempt that's been made after you know shorter installments, I might start to feel a different way. Um, so the current thing I'm planning on doing is just the Theodore Roosevelt film, and then picking a story, probably about the youth of a politician, and writing a maybe 20-page script for a pilot about that person. Then if I like that, we'll produce that. Then if I like it, I'll turn it into something. So I think that's the best circumstance I can have at this point. And I don't say that with any conviction that things are going to get better or different from doing it this way. I just know that based off of my own psychology and just way of how I've done things in the past, I want to within myself feel a sudden almost guarantee that what I've done here actually has had something manifest. I could write loads and loads of scripts, but if none of it ever materializes, I feel as if it's been a waste of time. And even in writing, this is also notable, even in writing all of those scripts, I don't think I would feel that way because I could still have something to show for making my attempt. Because I can say, oh well, I didn't end up doing this, but because I tried this, I ended up getting this. If that makes sense to those that will check this out in the aftermath of things. But I have to say that out of the presidents, and again, the reason for picking them is that a lot of these members of Congress, while we know about their tenure in office, it always feels as if because there's no definitive biography with many of them, there's very little known about their early life. So you end up not being able to pick that period, or when you go back to that period, you have to do a lot of assuming about how people acted, what this person was. It's like the only thing you're guaranteed is just basic info on the names of their parents, uh, and maybe when they, were born and died. That's about it. And it really sucks because I've had to explain repeatedly there are loads and loads of figures throughout history I would like to do things about, but I want to not just have it be this one and done thing. I want to, if I really like my characterization of that historical figure, I want to go back to them, which is why I see myself being more willing to do a show or a series. Even with Polk, for example, that's someone who very little is known about his parents, but because I happen to like that president, I'm probably going to make some attempt at either doing a short film about their tenure in office or some other part of their career that can be gone into and thought about and given serious consideration for a story and end up actually being seen. So it is it's just a really interesting way this stuff likes to go. But I'd say at the top of my list right now is Nixon. I had a plot that I actually started crafting. It is designed to take place in the year of, I think it was 1930, 1929. It's when he's about 18 or 19. He's right out of high school or in his last year of high school. And the reason I picked that period is because his brother had died at age 7 a few years before that. There's some stuff written about his father and how he dealt with that. We have info on both his father and mother as a result of his memoir. So right there, that's how Nixon becomes an even more interesting character in terms of writing potential, because I like being able to have some frame of reference when I write. Yes, it's me still assuming how a person reacts to certain things, but if we know enough about that person, or if they're written about extensively, which in the case of a lot of presidents' parents, they're not, um, we can end up getting a gist of who that person was. So it is really interesting. But yeah, if I've given a few working titles, one of which was Young Nixon, the early days of RN. There's a variety of things that can be used there, but it would be about him, his parents, and the I believe three living siblings at that time, and they're going to be even harder to find stuff about. I didn't go further enough into that memoir to figure out if he'd written anything about them as well. So they might end up being people I can show accurately, people that only appear sporadically. Maybe I could just do it to where he's, it's always just you and him as far as the viewer is concerned, and then as his parents are here and there, and then they're even more distant. Even though I really like the idea of just focusing on the relationship between um, father and son, because he describes his father's influence on him as what caused him to never back out of the odds, or to give up when things appeared in despair. So that by itself has, I think, a lot of story potential. And that's what makes me want to say, you know, screw turning this down, because I don't know what his dad's favorite color was. So long as we know that he was an impactful and significant figure in his life, we're gonna do it about him. I would do, this show and have Nixon's dad be like a deuteragonist, at least in this pilot anyway, because of Nixon's description of him. I like to take people at their word when they talk about their youth, especially people that matter to them. And I have no reason to believe that Nixon's dad didn't significantly impact them. And, this isn't just, oh, I love paternity, because Clinton's father, for example, who died, I think it was 2, 3 months before he was born, just like with Andrew Jackson, their fathers played no role whatsoever in their life as a result of their deaths. So they never had, any significant relationships with them. It is what it is. Um, but yeah, Nixon's the top candidate for that. I might write a series of pilots. That's going to be much, much easier to do than the film. I think I'll be more focused in terms of what I want to convey. I thought about with Nixon, because you can kind of show this thing of this guy living in poverty, and in knowing that that is the main angle, I want that to go from person, working their way up and being entrepreneur like. I kind of backtracked on the Reagan one, even though I more so, because people have this thing about their political ideology causing them to not like someone. And even if I didn't agree with what Reagan did in office, I can't, fault the other members of his family who were Democrats. Um, it might end up being about them instead of him. He might be the what do you call it, the least important member of that four-man group of him, his brother, and his parents, as a result of that. But again, it's just I have an interest in telling these stories, because I think when people, in being related to someone, but also in playing a role in the life of a major historical figure, I think they should be remembered. And I think that when you contribute to history, there is a need to see how that person acted. And I believe that I have the attention span to try and accurately portray these people. Obviously, liberties will be taken here and there, but as far as sitting there and looking for pictures and trying to draw them like how they look in the photo, and read whatever was written here as proof of, you know, their liking of being that way, all of that I'm willing to do, as long as it means telling a story that is both entertaining and accurate to the time period. Um, and that's why it's always been mostly modern presidents that I've talked about wanting to do that with, because there's just more material on them than the older ones, with the exception of maybe Lincoln. Um, and even in that case, you still have his mother dying at a relatively when he was about, I think, 8. So I still wouldn't be able to, depict her, um, and show her impact on him without doing some big time skip between him being a little child. And that's the other problem, that when a lot of these parents die, the kid is young, so I can't have a pilot be in that period because I know I'm not going to want to talk about, this person when they were 5 or 6, or show them, if I do, for more than that single installment. If I'm doing a pilot, I want to give you a gist of what the actual show would be about or what it would be like. So there's just loads and loads of issues that find themselves being intermixed in this. And while I'm not satisfied with not having anything to show right now on this channel other than just me speaking and speaking, oh, I'd like this, I like to do this, I still think that we're actually getting somewhere because now I have further pushed down what I want to create, and that is a work that has to do with the early life of one of these presidents. And I have a series of candidates, Nixon being at the top, followed by Carter or Truman, and maybe Reagan after that. The point is that this is something that's doable, because people have spoken about their youth in memoirs. Our biographers have gone back and dug through things. It's a really it's a work that can be supported by history, that there was some interest or willingness to leave documents behind relating to the lives of these individuals. So I'm gonna get off of here, continue on what I'm doing, but rest assured, we're making progress. And I understand for anyone who watches week after week and says, "Oh, it's the same thing. I tried, but I didn't get to it," and I'm seeking to change that tune. So thank you, and have a good day, or good night rather.